The revelation of the God of the Bible comes through the Jewish people. That's why they're chosen. That's what they were chosen for.
Are the Jews still God's chosen people today? No. Today, Christians are God's chosen people.
A Cincinnati lawyer claims it's his duty to represent a group of white supremacists because he believes, quote, white people are the chosen people.
We are the real chosen people. If you happen to be Jewish, or if you happen to be Christian, or if you happen to be Muslim, there is some aspect of that in our sense of who we are as religious people.
Every time I open my web browser and see some evangelist talking about Israel or some white supremacist talking about racial supremacy, it always seems to come back to the idea of being God's chosen people. I get it. You want to feel special, but chosen people? Chosen people? Chosen people? The notion of a divinely chosen people or race is a mere hog dropping away from utter nonsense. What sane creator of all people would even draw those lines? Hey, you know how I created these talking monkeys with overactive amygdalas and a tribalistic in-group out-group mentality? Let's tell one of these violent primate subgroups that they're special, deserve to conquer and rule the world, and have our blessing to do so. Whatever could possibly go wrong? The idea of a chosen people is so arrogantly anthropocentric it makes Trump's ego look fun-sized. What makes our planet significant to begin with? Why in space would pea-brained animalistic humans be considered special by the creator of billions of stars and planets far grander and more magnificent than our own? We are on this remote, minuscule floating rock, and half of us can't even figure out the right way to flip the toilet paper roll. It's over, by the way. You flip it over. And if you don't agree, then you're probably the reason that Jersey Shore has more watch time than Cosmos. If an advanced godlike alien civilization were to look down on us, they'd likely laugh and smirk. They just entered the nuclear age. How cute. We'll come back when they've evolved one giant interconnected internet brain, if they don't blow themselves up first. We share 98% of our DNA with poop-throwing chimpanzees, and we have even more DNA in common with each other. At what point in our evolution did God decide that our races were ever so slightly different enough to pick one of us to be his fave? And how did he draw the blurry lines? Does God look at bloodlines? Then why does every race of people all have the same blood types? Blood banks no longer segregate blood by the donor's race like they did during World War II. We know better now. If you've ever had an emergency surgery and needed a blood transfusion, chances are you received blood from someone of another race than you, and your body accepted it just fine. And if that happened, you should be grateful, because they saved your life. Perhaps God picks a favorite by discriminating based on skin color, which is heavily influenced by melanin content, fluxing from person to person, as well as the amount of sunlight exposure, tanning beds, etc. And if so, then mixed race people must really give God a cranial contortion. Does he subjectively prefer Indians, light-skinned blacks, or dark-skinned Latinos more in this imaginary hierarchy of chosenness? Even cultures that isolate themselves and try their best to keep their bloodlines pure show internally significant changes between individuals due to gene duplication, genetic mutation, epigenetics, and horizontal gene transfer. If God really wanted the bloodlines that pure, incest would be his greatest boon to mankind. Instead, narrow gene pools are the best way to acquire genetic defects. Perhaps God's a eugenicist, choosing his people based on head shape or nose structure, in which case head-binding cultures must really throw him off, and plastic surgeons hold the keys to your heavenly mansion, for which your nose job may be a prerequisite. Or do you have to chop a chunk of your God-chosen man noodle off to play for the winning team? Maybe God chooses his favorite people based on their linguistic inheritance, in which case maybe I'll become a polyglot fluent in 12 languages so that I can please the whims of a dozen nations' finicky deities. But if that's the case, then why do languages evolve, morph, and dilute so much? Even the French can't keep their language from changing, and boy do they try. And if one of the gods really chose one race, why all the confusion over which one it is? The Jews think that they're God's chosen people, Pan-Arab nationalists think that they have some kind of divine destiny, Russians have the notion of Svetaya Rus, or Holy Russia, as well as the idea that Moscow was determined by God to be the third Rome. Most of the British Commonwealth have the notion that they're God's own country. Germans have Sonderweg and Übermensch, Rastafarians have their own notions of divine grandeur, and for Americans it was manifest destiny and the white man's burden. But if whiteys make God grin, then Nigerians with albinism must really give him the giggle fits. Go far enough back and we all emerged out of Africa, and mass migration, immigration, and interracial marriages have blended us all together into one human race. The best demonstration of this is when KKK members get their DNA tests back showing that they're part Jewish, Mexican, and black. While isolation and evolution account for minor differences between the races, here's where it gets really crazy. If you go back one generation, your parents, You share them in common with your siblings. You go back 2 generations and you share ancestors with your cousins. The further back you go, the bigger this tree becomes and the more modern day people you share ancestors with. You go back 100 generations, just a couple thousand years, and you share at least one ancestor with every single person on Earth, even accounting for isolated inbred societies. A little further back and you share every single ancestor with every other person on Earth. Sure, some lineages have died out, but that means that if you go enough generations back, you'll eventually hit a point where you, everyone in Nigeria, everyone in Japan, everyone in Chile, and the entire world share every single ancestor in common with each other. Slight differences in skin color, nose shape, eye color, hair color, and texture have occurred through genetic mutation. But nevertheless, all of us are remarkably similar, and we're all related. Whether it's Queen Hatshepsut in Egypt, King David in Israel, or Emperor Wu of the Han Dynasty in China, you're probably related to one or all of them. Follow their ancestry back another 1,000 years or two, and you definitely are. So if race is a human construct on the basis of minuscule superficial differences, then on what basis would a god play favorites? Cultural practices and traditions? If so, what practices? Circumcision, which is practiced by Jews, Muslims, and some Christians? Not eating beef? Which I guess in that case, the vegetarians could slip in on the Hindu ticket. Some pastors say it's based on belief, but we don't get to choose where we're born. What if we're brought up in the wrong religion? And if we've never even been exposed to a different religion or even encountered evidence against the religion we're brought up in, then do we really have a free choice? Our cultures are so heavily interconnected that one afternoon on Imgur or Reddit will drop kick you with the realization that none of your experiences are unique to you, and you share them with people all around the world. Even something as signature to a nation as K-pop is nothing but an amalgamation of other cultural influences. While this is a gross simplification, this distinctly Korean phenomenon, captured by hardware manufactured in China by a German company founded by a Swiss businessman, is then mixed down in an American DAW. The Japanese camera's shoot moves influenced heavily by MTV and by African-American hip-hop culture that are performed by dancers rocking the latest European threads. Afterwards, they probably go out for Middle Eastern shawarmas at Mr. Kebab in downtown Seoul. Our world is becoming more and more interconnected, and that's a good thing. The realization that we're all one race, the human race, and the need for peace for mutually beneficial trading to take place has led to, when you stop and add up the numbers, the most peaceful century in history, even with 2 world wars. Cryptocurrency is pushing for a decentralization of money. The third world is rapidly rising or has risen out of poverty. International trade agreements and free movement zones have made borders begin to disintegrate, with a few obvious exceptions. International languages have brought us closer together, and ongoing advances in instantaneous translation software and hardware promise to make language barriers a thing of the past. So while religion threatens to divide us on the knife edge of racial differences, science and technology show us just how similar we all are and promise to bring humanity even closer together. With ideas, languages, religions, and cultures mixing and melting in a never-ending dynamic game of musical pairs, what part of a constantly changing, interweaving chosen people is chosen? And what makes it singular? You're not chosen, but that's actually extremely liberating. You're under no obligation to be God's anointed. Instead, we can come together under our own volition to fight for the future of humanity. Because when you really stop and take a step back, ethnic differences are only skin deep. Thank you to everyone for watching, including my amazing patrons who support my show and make all of this possible. If you want to support my work, you can like this video and share it with your friends, and you can support my videos financially over at patreon.com/holykoolaid. You guys are amazing. Dare to be curious, but don't drink the Kool-Aid.